Hello everyone, this is David, and tonight's movie that we watched was Godzilla's Revenge, also known as All Monsters Attack. I believe in Japan it was called All Monsters Attack. America, Godzilla's Revenge. And man, oh man, this is by far the worst Godzilla movie. And here's the real travesty of this movie. When you think about it, Godzilla isn't even in this movie. And I'll explain that in a little bit. But first we're going to talk about the one new monster in this movie and a couple of the issues I have with it. So the first and only new monster in this movie is a monster called Gabara, who's a big, goofy looking green monster who can he has like taser hand. He has like don't tase me bro abilities. So like if he grabs you with his hands, he can shock you with like electricity, which I guess is kind of a interesting idea. But it's still not as impressive as like atomic breath. Hell, it's not as impressive as I fly at like really fast speed. So that's the new monster Gabara, and Gabara is this bully that picks on Minya. So good for him. Fuck Minya, hate him. Yeah, a lot of spite, but if he didn't look so stupid, it wouldn't be an issue. Oh man, I really don't like that Godzilla's son looks like the freaking Pillsbury Doughboy. No one should. I don't think anyone likes Minya. I think I'm in a vocal majority here when I say Minya's terrible and no one likes him. He's like in every show when they add that comedic extra character that's completely unnecessary, serves no purpose, and looks really goofy. That's what Minya is. But anyway, so that's Gabara. Sorry to digress and rag on Minya, but screw him. I don't like him. Anyway, so let's talk about the problems I have with this movie. So first of all, this movie isn't really a kaiju movie. I'm only including it because it is part of the Godzilla cycle, technically. It's produced by Toho, Godzilla's in it, technically. So we have to take the bad with the good. It's the problem when doing this sort of thing. You have to accept all movies from all walks of life, whether they be wretched or amazing. So, for lack of a better term, this or not even lack of a better term, this movie is a stock footage movie. 90% of all the monster footage in this movie is stock footage, and the non-monster footage is boring. And I will explain that when I get to the plot. Actually, you know what? Screw it. We're just going to dive into this and get this over with as quickly as possible. Because I don't want to deal with this anymore. I want to watch something good. I want to watch something awesome. And unfortunately, that's not going to happen for a couple days. But, you know, we take what we can get. Okay? You got to get through the bad to get back to the good, I guess. I don't see why it couldn't just have been good the whole time. But someone decided there's got to be a night to this day. So, this movie focuses around this little kid, Ichiro. Or Ichiro? Whatever. Ichiro. And he's apparently what's called a latchkey kid. Now, I didn't know about this term till I looked up basically the plot to this movie online. And what that means apparently is that both of his parents work all day. And much often they're like, I think his mother works at like a hotel or something like that. She dresses very traditional, formal Japanese woman. So like she has like the long kimono with the obi all done up like the big female obi as opposed to like the tight little like male obi, which is like a thinner belt. It's just the big obi and like the big sleeves and everything, which it was interesting because it's like, you know, 60s Japan, almost the 70s at this point. But I'm guessing she works at some sort of hotel or some similar such service. I'm not exactly sure. She wasn't dressed as like a geisha or anything, so I don't even know if they had geisha back then. Like, well, not back then, but like in the 60s and 70s. Like, I'm sure they did to some capacity, but. And his father apparently is like a train worker. He like drives trains around, which is pretty cool. That's understandable. Like, that's a hard working job, I guess. So both his parents, and he's like 6. No, he's not 6. He's older than that. He doesn't look that old, but I want to say he's like somewhere between 7 and 8, maybe 9. He's not that old. He's a little kid. And has like a little girlfriend who's poorly dubbed, who's clearly an old woman, or not an old woman, but like an adult woman dubbing like a little girl, as opposed to getting a little girl dub them. Now, I can understand why you wouldn't do that, because getting children to, perform well is difficult at best, but whatever. So he comes home and his apartment's empty, and his only friend is this guy that lives like across the hall, Shinpai, who invents things, which is kind of cool, and the little girl Sachiko, who he hangs out with every once in a while. And basically, Shinpai is an inventor who basically makes sure he gets food and make sure he is, taken care of when his parents are out, because apparently this guy he's like one of the first cases of someone who just works out of the house. So that's kind of cool. He's got this older friend. Now nowadays that have all sorts of creepy connotations, like an older man watching your child that just happens to live across the hall and he makes toys. That sounds kind of creepy, but back in the 60s and 70s, I guess that was more acceptable. And the guy isn't like a creep or anything. He's just an inventor that wants to help out a kid that lives across the street. It's just we have so many stories of like creepy stuff happening now that we're all traumatized and we expect it. Now, I've talked quite a bit now about things, and you'll notice something hasn't happened yet. There's no Godzilla at all. So when's Godzilla show up? Well, turns out he's showing up right about now. So the kid goes to bed, goes to sleep, and when he sleeps, he dreams about going to Monster Island. So just make a note of that. He dreams about going to Monster Island. He doesn't actually go to Monster Island. He dreams about it. So all of this is in his crazy fever dream mind, like his crazy mind, because he's so lonely all the time. He has dreams about crazy monsters, and he'd rather sleep than be awake and that kind of thing. So he's on Monster Island, and he's seen all the monsters, and it's stock footage from Son of Godzilla and Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster. And you see a little bit of cuts of Manda, I think Gorosaurus, I think Baragon was there at some point, maybe. There's Anguirus. You just cuts like for like 5 seconds of a monster, and it's like, oh man, that could have been cool, but nope, nothing cool happened. So so he's watching all these monsters, and then he ends up meeting up with Manda, or not Manda. That would be cool if he met up with Manda. No, he ends up meeting up with Minya, and conveniently, because this is a crazy dream, Minya can shrink down to be person-sized. And basically, Minya is an analog for himself, because he has to discover his own sort of... he has to learn his bravery and overcome the bullies that bully him every day. And there are bullies that bully him every day. I forgot to mention that, but it's really... So, it's really not that important, because you're really here for the monsters, not the lame story, and I don't even know what to say. So anyway, let's just get through this. So he's dreaming about that, and meanwhile, to deal with the fact that he's like left alone all day, he goes and explores a factory which happens to have a bunch of criminals that the cops have been looking for. Well, 2 criminals, and he finds their license, and they track him down and they kidnap him. And through his dreams of learning how to fight, he fights off the bandits and escapes, and the police come in and arrest him. And then he fights off the bullies, and the day is saved. And that's Godzilla's Revenge. And honestly, I really don't recommend this one. I remember the one interesting part about it when I was a kid was I liked seeing all the monsters, because I didn't have access to all these movies that I now easily have access to. But nowadays, you don't need that. You can just look them up online. I mean, keep in mind, I grew up in the 80s. Like, the only way I could see these movies was by watching them on TV, or going to like a video store and renting them if they even had them. So it was like, seeing what you could was kind of cool, but even then, I thought it was kind of lame. I just fast forwarded through all the human parts, because really, we're here to see Godzilla destroy cities. We're not here to see Godzilla try to help people through their everyday struggles of being an 8-year-old kid that's being bullied and kidnapped by criminals. So yeah, I'd definitely avoid this one unless you're a real sucker for punishment or you really like poorly dubbed 8-year-old school kids getting into shenanigans. Alright, folks, good night.